You know, as a wee boy, Mum used to read stories to me. You know, Vasco da Gama and Abel Tasman and Captain Cook, all those people fascinated me. I always used to say to Mum, one day I'm going to be a sailor. And she says, oh, yeah, good on you, Johnny. I had my 21st birthday at sea. I was on a ship called the Martangi, which went backwards and forwards from Wellington to Nelson. And oh, that was wonderful. One afternoon I went to one of the pubs in Littleton, and I got playing darts with the crew of a British ship. You're not a bad sort of a fellow, Kiwi. Why don't you come with us? And I said, yeah, right, I'll come. Yep, righto. Never asked what I was going to be doing. I was a member of the British Seamen's Union, and I had a British Seaman's identity card. And when it came time to take on the next crew, they signed me on, and I stayed on that ship the whole time I was at sea. The Caribbean. Everybody on this earth, if they've got the wherewithal, should go to the Caribbean for a cruise. I used to take my mattress out onto the hatch at night and a sheet and just lie there on a pillow and lie on the broad of my back, and you felt as though you could pull the moon down and the stars. Oh, the day we got married, first church in Invercargill on the 1st of Wednesday, the 1st of June, 10:30. Everyone got married on a Wednesday back in those days. We had the reception at the Elmwood Gardens in Invercargill where 90% of Southlanders had their wedding reception. It was just lovely, beautiful grounds. We'd just bought a brand new Ford 10 Prefect car, and so we went into town this day to see about renting a house. And I says, Mr. Hosey, we couldn't afford a house. He says, do you own that car out there? I says, yes. He says, no, I mean, do you own it? I says, of course we do. Right, can you ride a push bike? I says, oh, what the bloody hell's he on about? And I says, yes. Right, come with me. So he took us, got us in his car, went out the back and got in his car, and we drove out to Grasmere, one of the suburbs in Invercargill. And, right, this is where you're going to live. And there was a builder working 2 sections down. Tom, come up here. This is Els and John. He says, they're buying this section. He says, when could you start a house here? Got back in the car and we drove back into town, and we pulled up in front of the State Advances. That was the government-owned organisation. And we got a £200 suspensory loan if we lived in the house for 13 years. So we got a £2,000 loan, mortgage, 2.5%. And that's how we started off with owning a house. I sold home appliances, a big part of my life. Managed a caravan court, boat court. Sold real estate. I always looked at people's shoes. When I was buyer for the firm all those years ago, first time I was selling home appliances, travellers would come in, and if they'd have scruffy shoes, you could bet your boots everything else wasn't a hell of a lot better. It's a fact, you know. Yeah, the journey of life. It's an interesting. Mine's been a long one. How much longer, I don't know, but I've had a wonderful life, and I wouldn't change it. It was wonderful. Just most enjoyable. Yeah.